Chapter 19. The Mercury was always swarming during late afternoons and nights, but when I went in that morning the crowd was sparse. Despite the early hour, the glass chandeliers were already lit. Huge, wall-sized mirrors were polished, there to make everything bigger, brighter. Behind drinking counters were shelves set against the walls, displaying great numbers of liquor bottles, as well as glass jars full of free peppermints. The air smelled of whale oil fumes, which mingled with the odor of whiskey and stale tobacco. It made me wrinkle my nose. It was almost impossible to believe the place had been a ship not unlike the Stephanie K, in which I had come to California. Yet its transformation was so like San Francisco. There were multiple roulette and billiards tables, as well as gambling tables covered with green cloth, behind which, though it was just morning, sat professional gamblers. Around these men were stacks of coins and piles of gold dust, worth, Thad had told me, as much as $5,000. The money was there to tempt miners to try their luck at games of chance. During crowded times, enthusiastic men would line up 3-4 deep, shoving forward so they could place bets. There were just as many stumbling the other way, who, having become abruptly impoverished, had faces that were maps of misery. If I had learned anything about San Francisco, it was this: the men might have been in a fever to get gold, but they were just as feverish to wager it away. As I stood in the middle of the long hall, the ship's hull, and observed the entire sparkly place, I saw no sign of Jacob, but I did notice that on a stage in the back, where musicians performed, a solitary negro boy was sitting on a chair, playing a brass-keyed bugle. The melody was that sad "I often think of riding home," which I recognized as the one Jacob had been whistling. Willing to make any connection to my brother, I wandered back to the stage. I thought the bugler somewhat the same age as I, skinny like me, with coffee-colored skin and bushy curly hair. He wore frayed trousers and a flannel shirt somewhat large for him. The cuffs rolled back over thin wrists. Boots. Though his face was narrow, his cheeks as he played bulged like chicken eggs. His fingers were long and slender, and moved with great assurance over the keys, bringing forth the song with a smooth, melancholy tone. As I stood there dressed for work, which is to say not in my feminine attire, looking and listening to him play, I was sure he noticed me, but he didn't do or say anything. "Good morning," I finally called. The boy, without stopping his playing, glanced over to me and gave no more than a bob to his instrument to acknowledge my presence. It was only when I continued to stand there that he abruptly stopped playing, lowered his bugle, and considered me with angry eyes, as if to say I was interrupting him. Though I suspected he wished I'd go away, I chose to take advantage of his pause as a chance to say something. "Do you play in the band?" I asked. He lifted his horn as if to say that was obvious. "The tune you were playing, I often think of riding home. My brother likes it." His face softened a little. "Okay," he said without emotion. "My name is Victoria Blydell, Torrey." After a moment he gave a nod. "Samuel Nichols. Sam." "What part of the States do you come from?" I asked. In San Francisco, when you meet people, that was the way friendly conversations most often started. He hesitated before saying, "New York State. You?" "Rhode Island," I said, pleased that the Yankee connection gave us something in common. "Were you playing here last night?" His look grew wary. "What if I was?" "It's my younger brother," I said, "Jacob. He's gone off somewhere. I don't know where, so I'm searching for him. Since he likes music, and that song you were playing was his favorite, I thought he might have been here last night and you saw him." "Lots of people here last night. What's he look like?" I described Jacob. The boy was silent for a moment, and then said, "Last night a kid like that was standing right where you are, watching and listening to me play that tune. When I stopped, he went off." Here, at last, was news. "Do you have any idea where?" I asked with eagerness. Sam shook his head. "All I do is make music." As if to make his point, he turned from me, lifted his bugle, and began to play that melody again. "I often think of riding home." I took it to mean he was not going to say any more. Though frustrated, I said, "Thank you," and turned away, uncertain where I should go next. All I could think to do was to go back up the hill and wait. I had almost reached the Mercury's front doors when a man stepped in front of me, blocking my way. With his high stovepipe hat he loomed over me. He was a tall man, his face shaped like the letter V, with a trimmed dark beard, an elegant jacket with black cravat and white collar. His long nose brought to mind a blackbird or a crow. I took him to be one of the professional gamblers. "Yes, miss, what brings you here?" he demanded, as if he had the right to know. Though I thought him ill-mannered, at least he recognized me as a girl. "Yes, sir," I said, "I'm looking for my brother." That a fact. What's he look like? I described him. "A kid. 10." He frowned. "Little young to be here, isn't he? But nope, can't say I ever saw him. What makes you think he was here?" "That boy." I pointed toward the back of the saloon and Sam. "The bugler, he told me he saw him." The man glanced toward the stage. Then he turned back to me with unfriendly eyes. "I was here all last night," he said, "and I didn't see anyone like you described. Now, you can trust me or you can trust that colored kid. Hate to tell you, he's not one for speaking the truth much. Anyway, I don't think a girl should be in here. You better move on out." Not only were his words offensive, but the way he spoke and studied me was intimidating. I almost blurted out what I thought. I'd trust the boy before you, but decided I had best leave. In any case, the man, whoever he was, had told me to go. "Thank you, sir," I managed to say. The man stepped aside and allowed me to move toward the entry. I had no idea who he was, but as I walked away, I belatedly realized that he had a pelican feather attached to his jacket lapel. It was just like the one Father had given Jacob.